looks better.
Check, check.
You good?
Check, check.
All right. Let's roll.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Road to the Blue Map Week 3, presented by Roho Go Vacation Rentals. No matter where you want to visit in the Greater Mountain Lakes region of Alabama, we have something for you. Make sure to check out Roho Go Vacation Rentals, and we appreciate their support for high school athletics right here with Average Joe's Sports Talk. Caleb Brooks, Reggie Davis here with you this week. Bo had some prior other things that he had to do that he had already had planned. So Reggie will step in and break down all the action this week. And it's a fun week. It's a fun time of year, Reggie. You know, week 2 of region play getting going for a lot of these teams. Some teams had some bye. You know, we talked to Gunnersville earlier for keeping up Marshall County Athletics. They didn't get to play a region game because Crossville doesn't have a varsity team this year. And so, but, you know, getting into region play, a lot of these teams starting to play the games that really matter towards making it to the postseason. And so it just makes it a fun time of year. And as we can feel out here tonight, starting to feel like football weather.
Oh, man, it feels great out here tonight. I mean, I'm glad they put us outside tonight. It feels great. So I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of big games going on this week, a lot of early region games that's going to have some region championship implications. So some races are going to kind of – we're going to get a good look on how some regions are going to shape out after this week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and we'll start things off with our games on Thursday, and I'll be doing this game on the AHSAA TV network. You can download Roku, the app on Roku for WOTM. It's WOTM. That's the cable channel if you have Spectrum, DirecTV, anything like that. And then you can download the WOTM app on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV. You can also, if you have an NFHS subscription, you can also watch this game on there. It'll be produced by AHSAA, so you can find it on there. Fairfield traveling to Jasper. Record-wise, not the best of matchups. Fairfield is 0-3. They've lost all 3 games by a combined 95 points, which you're not used to seeing from a Fairfield football program, which may have them coming out pretty hungry on Friday night because they're going to be taking on an 0-2 Jasper team, who is kind of a surprise that they're 0-2. And lost to Coleman week 1, 15-13. Then they lost 65-6 to Ramsey. So, you know, obviously it's 2 teams looking to kind of get their footing, get things going in that region. And it's a tough region right there with Ramsey. You know, you got Mortimer Jordan there, or Mortimer Jordan's moved up to 6A. But you got Ramsey, you've got Pleasant Grove, you've got some really good teams in that region. And so, you know, kind of fighting to get into one of those playoff spots. It's going to be really tough, and so it should be a fun game to get things started on Thursday there on the AHSAA TV game of the week. And so, Reggie, I'll let you talk a little bit about our next game here. We talked about Mortimer Jordan just a second ago. Mortimer Jordan taking on Parker should be a fun matchup.
Man, I'm looking forward to this one. Mortimer Jordan is a team that only went 2-8 last year, so they're 3-0. They've already surpassed their win total from last year. They've come out, beat some very good teams early this season. They beat a very good leagues team, 31-28. And last week, they kind of had their way with Gardendale. They won that game 58-28. So Mortimer Jordan's one of those teams that's kind of turned some heads in 6A, going up against a very, very good Parker team that I think a lot of people are looking at as one of the contenders for the 6A North. So this should be a very fun matchup between these 2 teams. You know, Parker had that huge win over Ramsey, 20-17. Ramsey is the defending 5A state champions, and they won that game by 3 points. So this could be a very fun matchup and kind of give us an idea on how this region is going to shake out.
Yeah, no, it definitely should. You know, I look at Mortimer Jordan, that, you know, I saw them beat Leeds, and I went, well, you know, Leeds maybe isn't as good as they were last year. And so then they beat Springville, and I said, well, you know, it's a good win over Springville.
Yeah.
When they beat Gardendale 58-21, that's what really jumped out at you, where you kind of went, okay, Mortimer Jordan may be for real this year. When you can go beat Chad Eads and Gardendale in that fashion, that really kind of stood out to me. Woodville traveling to Appalachian. Tell us a little bit about this matchup here with Woodville and Appalachian.
You know, Woodville's another one of those upstart teams this year. They went 2-8 last year. They hired Joel Poole to come in and turn that program around. So they've already matched their win total from last year. Last week they got a very big win against a very normally tough Cedar Bluff team, 38-27. that was the first win over Cedar Bluff in Woodville school history. So I know that those guys have got to be feeling good going into this matchup with Appalachian. Appalachian was one of those playoff teams out of this region last year. So these guys are feeling pretty good. Appalachian, I've had a chance to see them play JB Pennington in a jamboree, and they're very physical. They can run the ball well. They can pass the ball well. They've got a big guy on the line, Andrew. I can't remember his last name, but they're very physical and big up front. So this could be a very good matchup. Appalachian beat Cleveland a very good Cleveland team last week, 34-20. So that kind of tells you that this is going to be a pretty good matchup between these two.
Yeah, Appalachian won this game 48-8 last year. I think we might have a little bit of a different story, though, considering how Woodville started out this season. And, Woodville already had as many wins they had last year, 2-8. So, a good start for them. And then for Appalachian, you're coming off playoff berth last year, which was a very good step for them. And now looking to really kind of continue things there on into this year. And they've gotten off to a good start as well. Randolph County traveling to Ragland should be a very interesting matchup, non-region matchup for these two teams. Randolph County, they were off week 0. They ended up beating Woodland 41-0, and then Childersburg 38-28. It's a Childersburg team that looks to be a lot better this year than they have been really in the past couple of years. And so, good win there for Randolph County. They were undefeated last year before they lost their last 3 games of the year. It started with a loss to Dadeville, and then they ended up losing their last game of the regular season, and then got beat in the playoffs as well. So Randolph County kind of trying to get things back going and turn things back around and get back to the start that they had last season and then finish it this season. And they've done that starting out 2-0. You look at Ragland, they lost to a good Vincent team. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks. They played for a state championship in baseball. So, it tells you that there's a winning mindset there. There's some athletes there. So not a bad loss there to Vincent. They turned around. They beat a good Southeastern team 13-6, and they dominated Donahoe last week, 66-0. A lot of momentum going into this game. It's a good challenge for Ragland. If you're wanting to go compete, you're a little bit smaller classification than what Randolph County is. This is a good measuring stick for you. Randolph County won this game 48-24 last year, but now they'll be traveling to Ragland, and so maybe a little bit different story here this week. Should be a fun game. Decatur Heritage at Coosa Christian. This almost made our game of the week list. That's how good this ball game is. Decatur Heritage beat Section 63-15, Carbon Hill 55-0, Valley Head 34-12. Have not been challenged. They're going to get a challenge this week with Coosa Christian. They lost to Geraldine 26-0, but Coach Michael Davis has done just unbelievable job there at Geraldine, and it's been impressive watching what he's done and what that group has been able to do this year. And 26-0 loss to them. They turned around, they beat Spring Garden 21-6, and then Galesville 49-0. So, Bo was kind of telling you, hey, look, the score to Geraldine doesn't show you what this Coosa Christian team is. The last 2 weeks have shown you that. They get this game at home. This is a big matchup for them against Decatur Heritage, and I think we'll tell them a lot about where they're at and Coach Mark O'Brien with his group. B.B. Comer traveling to Rambert. Big matchup here, in my opinion. B.B. Comer played for the state championship last year. A lot of people will argue, 5 people won't like hearing this, but if they don't make some mistakes in that ball game, they probably win the game. And they dropped a wide-open touchdown pass that would have put them up 2 possessions early in that game that would have made a big difference in that game as well. And it's not to take away anything from Fife. We've talked about how great Fife is. I'll tell you, any day of the week, I love Coach Benefield and that group. But what I'm saying is, it shows you how good B.B. Comer is, the fact that if they don't make a few of those mistakes, they might have won that game last year. Not many people put up 28 points on Fife at the 2A level. They were able to spread it out and do that last season. So it tells you a lot about them. They beat a really good Dayville team, 35-21, to get their season started. They dominated Childersburg, who we just talked about. Played Randolph County close, 34-6. And then they dominated Woodland 45-0 last week. So, big game for Rambert, a big opportunity. They beat White Plains 31-28. They lost to Wadley, who we think has a chance of going and competing for a 1A state championship this year for sure.
Definitely.
And then they beat Fayetteville 38-19 last week. Comer won this game 32-7 last year. So Rambert getting this game at home now, looking to kind of turn things around and get things going in the right direction. We talked a little bit about Cleveland earlier. Cleveland traveling to Locust Fork. It's going to be a good little rivalry game right there with 2 communities that are very close to each other. Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. This is a huge Blount County rivalry. I'm going to tell you, those teams in Blount County, they care about the sports over there. They all work together. So I know this is going to be a huge matchup for both of these teams. Coach Will Glaze is in his 2nd year at Cleveland. Off to a little bit of a rocky start. They lost their first game 55-24 to Aniana and 34-20 to Appalachian that we mentioned earlier. They finished 7-4 last year, so it's not time to hit the panic button at Cleveland. These guys will get it turned around. Coach Glaze is a very good coach. I got to know him when he was at Gadsden City. very smart, offensive-minded guy. Locust Fork, they've come out hot this year. They beat Appalachian 61-20 and beat a very good J.B. Pennington team 42-20 and beat Holly Pond 68-28 last week. So they're coming out scoring a lot of points. I think somebody told me over the summer that Locust Fork is a team to really keep your eye on, and the way they're coming out scoring, I can kind of see that. Cleveland won this matchup 46-25 last year, just like the last game. This one might turn out a little different. So
no doubt about it. Southeastern traveling to West End. You don't want to say must win this early in the season, but a region matchup, and you look at the start. These two teams are at 1-1 for Southeastern, 1-2 for West End. It almost is a must win for both these programs.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I think last year West End was one game away from hosting the first round of playoffs, and I want to say Locust Fork beat them and kept put them on the road in the first round of Aliceville. So this probably is a must win game for these guys. Southeastern lost to Raglan that we just mentioned earlier, 13-6 last week. And first game, and then beat Gaston 46-0. These guys went 10-2 last year. Again, it's not time to hit the panic button. Coach Bird would get these guys going, especially this early in region play. He's in year 6, so looking forward to what he's going to do. West End started the year off with a 48-0 win over Galesville and lost to their rivals Susan Moore 33-6 the next week and 34-14 last week to a Pleasant Valley team that I think is getting things turned around. Last year, Southeastern won this game 21-14. I believe you're going to see a similar score this year because these two teams are hungry and they both want to host that first round playoff game.
No doubt about it. Whitesburg Christian traveling to Fife. Again, like I said it last week, you're not used to putting a loss beside Fife's name this early in the season.
No.
And that's a credit to Geraldine. They beat them 17-6 to get the year started. And then North Sand Mountain last week, they kind of got the bad end of the stick there, having to go against Coach Benfield and his group coming off of a loss. And, North Sand Mountain's had a decent start of the year until they ran into Fife. And, 53-0 last week. That's kind of more what you expect from Fife. And look, this for Whitesburg Christian, it's going to be a tough matchup. You didn't start your football program until 2020, so they're a little late to the game. They're still trying to figure things out up there. I think they're getting a little bit better. I mean, they played Eider very close last week, 28-21. Played Victory Christian pretty well, who very good there, and Coach Bruce Breland's done a great job there at Victory Christian. So, I think that you're seeing a Whitesburg Christian program that's improving, but it's just tough when you're going against the juggernaut that is Fife.
Yeah.
And,
at Fife, at that.
We saw Alabama get beat last week, and everybody keeps telling you, now that Saban's got a loss, they're a little bang. I think Benefield's in the same boat where now that he can kind of point to, hey, you guys aren't invincible. Hey, somebody can beat you.
Exactly.
I think that makes Fife dangerous the rest of the year.
Exactly. In fact, they got Fife at home. I mean, they're traveling to Fife, so that's going to make it even more difficult.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Eider traveling to North Sand Mountain, and we just kind of talked about it a little bit. North Sand Mountain coming off a 53-0 loss to Fife last week, and then lost 55-13 to Dade County, Georgia, who is a lot bigger than North Sand Mountain. So, look, they've challenged themselves early in the season. I mean, they really have, and got a good win over a Valley Head team that you talked about as a program that's in the right direction, improving. So to me, it hadn't been a bad start. It's 1-2, but it's not been a bad start to the year for North Sand Mountain. No. This is a good opportunity. You get an undefeated Eider team who is coming into this game with a lot of confidence. And for Eider, they started 2-0 last year and then ended up losing their last 8. Right. So the message has been this way. This seems like a different team. Beat Asbury 46-13, Whitesburg Christian 28-21. The message this week is now, hey, we did this last year. Now we've got to get further. Hey, we've got to build off of what we did last year. We can't have the same result. Exactly. So this is a very important game for both sides. For North Sand Mountain, you want to get back on the winning side, and then for Eider, you want to build off of your hot start and really keep things going in the right direction compared to what happened last year. I'll be doing this game on Friday night. Dave will traveling to Sacs. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Last year, this was matchup between two really good football teams, in my opinion. This year hadn't been the start that Sacs has wanted to the year. Last week they lose to Beulah 38-24, which was kind of a shocker to me, to be honest with you. I really look for Coach Freeney and his group to get their first win as a coaching staff there against Beulah. I'm really kind of shocked. I don't know. They went to Beulah. I don't know if it was the bus ride down. It's a long trip from Sacs to Beulah. Beulah is below Auburn. People that don't know where Beulah is. So that's a long trip from above Oxford to get down below Auburn and go to Beulah. Yeah. Maybe the bus ride had something to do with it, but it's just obviously not the start that they were thinking they would have. 32-8 Ohatchee, 49-14 to Sylvania, and like we've talked about, we expect Sylvania and Geraldine to maybe have a big matchup later on down the road. So that's not a bad loss, but the Beulah loss, the one that really kind of puzzled me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think for Dable, you're going to get a team that's hungry to beat you. They had a 10-0 lead on Dable last year. Dable ended up coming back, scoring 27 unanswered against them at home. Getting them at home at Saks, you know as well as anybody, Saks is a tough place to play at.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's going to be really interesting to see this game for Dable. They lost 35-21 to BB Comer, turned around and beat Weaver, who, let me tell you, Weaver's improved a ton. And I want to give their coaching staff a ton of credit.
Yep.
Last year, and I'm not trying to knock last year's staff and the players and all that, but it just looked like they didn't know what they were doing. They were discombobulated. There was a lot of miscommunication.
Yep.
They looked so together this year. They had a 13-0 lead on Dable.
Wow.
And Dable ended up having to come back. They scored a touchdown with 2 minutes, 15 seconds left to win the game. But Weaver's improved a ton. Dable was able to pull that one out last week. And so I'm really going to be interested to see how this game goes on Friday night between those two teams. We just talked about Beulah. They're going to be traveling to Walter Welborn. So now Saks had to make the trip all the way down to Beulah. Beulah now has to make the trip all the way up to Walter Welborn.
Exactly.
To be on the hill. You look at Walter Welborn to start the year, 38-22 to Anniston, 26-7 to AHSAA. It's a pretty good start to the year when you talk about scheduling and scheduling tough competition.
Yep.
So for Welborn, they're tested, coming in playing a Beulah team who beat Abbeville 35-12, lost 14-12 to Lochapoka, and then turned around and beat Saks. That's what really surprised me when I saw them. You know, I saw them beat Abbeville, and I said, okay, maybe Beulah's improved a little bit. And then they lost to Lochapoka, which maybe Lochapoka's better. I don't know a ton about them, but that one, I was like, okay, maybe they're not as good. And then they beat Saks. So they've been a little up and down, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle traveling up to Walter Welborn. And then I just talked about Weaver. They're going to be hosting Childersburg. Childersburg is 1-2. They beat Mumford 28-22, lost to BB Comer, and then lost to Randolph County, as we've already talked about. And then for Weaver, they dominated Donahoe 40-13, lost 24-20 to Glencoe, 26-20 to Dable. They've been right there the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
Now you get this game at home, a region game, and a chance, in my opinion, to really kind of show the rest of the region, hey, we are different this year, and you better watch out for us to get in this postseason.
Exactly.
That should be a really fun game there at Weaver. And like I said, it's a chance for Weaver to really make a statement to the rest of 3A and really to the rest of their region there that they're one that you have to take serious. And I think that game with Dable really stood out to a lot of people last week because Dable went undefeated and dominated that region last year.
Yeah, they did.
That was a 39-0 game at halftime last season, and they were tied at halftime this week. So, you know, much improved team. They have some athletes, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Weaver does the rest of the season.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Next game, Piedmont traveling to Plainview. This should be a fun one here, Reggie.
Yep. You know, Piedmont is like Fife. I mean, you're not used to seeing two losses next to Piedmont to start out the year. Again, I don't think it's not time to hit the panic button in Piedmont. There's plenty of athletes, plenty of talent, but you know, Piedmont had a very tough start to the year. I mean, they went up against a very good Cherokee County team that played for the 4A state championship. And then you've got Sylvania, which returned almost their entire team back. You know, and this is a team that Piedmont beat twice last year, if I'm not mistaken. They beat them in the regular season and beat them again in the semifinals of the playoffs. So Piedmont is going to be Piedmont, you know, and they're going to get a very good test against Plainview. You know, Plainview started the year out with a 21-14 win against Priceville. Priceville's not a bad team. They're a pretty good team. And then they lose 35-3 to Geraldine, which we've talked about, and what Coach Michael Davis is doing. So, and this is a game that Piedmont won 34-21 last year. So this could be a very interesting game. This is the game that Piedmont can, you know, get back to doing what they're used to doing. That's winning ball games.
Glencoe traveling to Westbrook Christian. This really is going to be a very interesting matchup here. Westbrook Christian barely lost to AHSAA last week.
I know. And that, you know, I got to say that's the Steve Smith effect.
Yeah.
Those guys, if I'm not mistaken, AHSAA went up pretty big early in that game, and Westbrook battled back and lost that game by 1 point. And again, the St. John Paul, the St. John Paul game they opened the season with, they were down 21-0 in that game, and they came back and won that game 42-27. So whatever Steve Smith's doing at Westbrook is working for those guys. And, you know, and Glencoe, Scott Martin, you know, I talked to Coach Martin before the Hoax Bluff game last week. You know, he says things are going according to plan for him and Glencoe. They're about a year away from really doing what they want to do. They went on the road last week, lost to Hoax Bluff, 47-7, but they beat Weaver the week before, you know, 24-20. And like you said, Weaver's a much improved team.
Much improved.
Coach Coffer is doing a great job at Weaver, and so this is going to be an interesting matchup to kind of see. This is a good gauge for both of these teams to kind of see where they are.
Yeah.
You know, because Glencoe didn't look like Glencoe last week, so I'm thinking they just had an off week. So this is a chance for them to see where they are, and for Coach Smith to see where his Westbrook team is.
And Westbrook won this game 43-10 last year, so I mean, you know, Glencoe probably has a little bit of revenge on their mind coming in, and I'm sure Coach Scott Martin has played that up.
Oh yeah.
Susan Moore traveling to Asbury. Susan Moore off to a 2-1 start. They start the year 20-0 to Douglas, who will be taking on Gunnerfield this week in a little bit higher classification. Not a bad start to the year. They competed very well with them. They've turned around. They've beaten West End 33-6, Danville 30. They lost 34-14 to Gaston. And then 46-13 to Eider. They beat Brindley Mountain 12-0 last year. Matt Harris is in year one there. You know, look, this is a good measuring stick game, I think, for Coach Matt Harris and his group. You're taking on Susan Moore, who's gotten off to a good start. You get them at home. How can you compete in this game? Can you keep it close? Can you make it a four-quarter game? If you can do that, I think that tells you things are going in the right direction there at Asbury with Coach Matt Harris. And, hey, you never know. You might could win that game, and that could really propel a good year for that Asbury program. He's looking to get back to being up there as well. Hoax Bluff traveling to Geraldine. A good win for Hoax Bluff last week against Glencoe, 47-7, as Reggie kind of told you about. They lost to Southside, who's a lot bigger than they are, 37-12.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have the work cut out for them this week against Geraldine. I mean, Geraldine, and it's what they've done defensively. 26-0, 17-6, and 35-3. 9 points in 3 games. They're averaging 3 points a game right now.
Yeah.
You know, they won this game 23-2 last season, and you know, at Geraldine, that's going to be very tough as well. But I think for Hoax Bluff, this will tell you a lot about where you're at. If you can go compete in this game, you can go make it a four-quarter game and be right there with Geraldine, who we expect to be right there competing for a state championship this year. That's going to tell you a lot about what this Hoax Bluff group can do going forward. And you know, they've got a chance to go win the game. You just got to go play well. That's the biggest thing. And so I think that'll tell us a lot about that. This is a big matchup here, Reggie. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this one goes. Anniston traveling to Jacksonville. Should be a lot of fun with that matchup there.
It will. I mean, this is a cross-county matchup, region matchup. I mean, you've got two region heavyweights going at it early in the season. You know, Anniston started the year off with a 38-22 win over Walter Wilburn, and then made the long trip down to Andalusia and lost that game 39-0, and bounced back last week and beat a solid Mumford team 47-14. So I think Coach Rico Jackson is, you know, he came to Anniston with a state championship on his mind. He said there's talent there that you can win championships at Anniston. And you know, that Andalusia game, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of factors that could have played into that, you know, that long bus ride and whatnot. So Anniston's going to be Anniston, and Jacksonville, you know, had a good start to the year. They came up and beat a Boaz team 43-21 and beat Alexandria 45-21 and lost to a very, very good Hanley team 32-24 last week in a back-and-forth game. You know, this game, you know, I think was a good measuring stick for Jacksonville because I think it showed them where they are, because Hanley is one of those teams that people are looking at to possibly play for a state championship. So Anniston won this game 30-23 last year. I think you could possibly see a similar score.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, and should be very interesting there. Jacksonville, I think they're a little bit improved from what they were last year as well. So that's what's going to make that game very interesting. Aniana traveling to Cherokee County should be a really interesting game here. Aniana beat Cleveland 55-24. They lost 27-13 to Dora. Coach Chavis Williams doing a great job there at Dora, getting the win over them. And then they came back, bounced back 43-24 against Hanceville. But they're going to have their work cut out for them this week. Cherokee County dominated Alexandria 48-14. They really dominated Piedmont 26-7. And then, you know, really took it to Good Hope. And you could kind of tell by the score, I mean, they got out to an early lead and just kind of took their foot off the gas and kind of cruised to a 35-0 lead. So should have their starters rested. And should be ready to go for a big matchup here with Aniana. But for Aniana, you know, you played for a state championship just 2 years ago. So, you know, for Cherokee County made it. You guys played in the semifinals last year. It was a big matchup in that. And for Aniana, if you can go get a win here and kind of get some revenge back, it also is going to show the rest of 4A, you know, we're one to watch out for too, and we can get right back there. But it's crazy you got the last 2 state champions playing against each other right here from the same, or not state, last 2 state runner-ups that played for a state championship right here from the same region, matching up with each other. So,
video just ended.
Yeah, wow.
I have no idea.
It hadn't done that yet.
No, it hasn't.
Well, it's been a disaster thanks to Bo not remembering to give us that damn.
I guess we'll just pick up where we left off. All right.
It recovered the broadcast, but it may just be recording. May just have to post it. Or do you want to try to go back live? You need to put a title on the back later. Put a title.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, we're about.
No, we're close.
I mean, yeah, we're close. So.